Hey guys, welcome to Bible 365. So today I am bringing you 2 Corinthians 1. And in this chapter, it's really an opening, just a greeting. And so we're going to introduce Paul and the reason why he is writing this letter. So if you're interested, I want you to stick with me and I'll see you guys in a minute. Hey, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and this channel is here to kind of merge Bible living with Bible literacy. So we are going to be using the New Testament this year in order to understand what it's like to live as a follower of Christ. I have a link below in the description that I have a download that will bring you to a chronological Bible reading of the New Testament. So what I want you to do is read every day and join me and hopefully some friends as we talk about what it means to live as a kingdom builder. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and today I am bringing you the very beginning of this second letter to the Corinthians. So I am doing 2 Corinthians 1. So if you have never been with me before, welcome. I'm excited you're here. I try and go through all of these letters, like I don't want to say verse by verse, but sort of, kind of. And I want to break them down to help us, me first, and then hopefully the listener second, and then whoever you kind of share this with. That's amazing. I'm trying to break it down to help understand like what was happening at the time, and then why did it matter? Like what was God trying to do? What was the purpose? And then what does that mean to us a couple thousand years later? Because this took place 2,000 years ago. And so I'm hoping through each chapter I get a little bit of that in there, like so we can kind of understand it a little bit. Sometimes I do a little more teaching about like history, and sometimes I do a little bit more about like how it completely affected me in my life. And every time it's a little bit different. So what we're going to do today is starting in the beginning. And this is a letter from Paul. So let me explain to you. I'm going to go verse 1. So 1:1, it says, Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God, and Timothy, our brother. So let me talk about who Paul is first. If you have never been with me before, if you have, I'm sorry, it's redundant information. You've heard all this before. So Paul was a Pharisee in the tribe of Benjamin. So he was a Jewish guy, and he heard about these people that were following Jesus, and he was like, this isn't right. I'm going to go and I'm going to go persecute these people. And very literally, he was getting the okay to go into people's homes, to drag them out of their homes and to put them in jail. Once they were in jail and they went to trial for being heretical, right? For following a God other than the Lord, according to them, he was one of the votes that would cast people to be put to death. So he had a lot of power. He was extremely zealous. And I think that he loved the Lord. And I think this is why the Lord came to visit him. So he says, I am an apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God. And so to hopefully, I'm trying to keep this in context of what I think that this means very specifically to Paul. And then we can kind of see what maybe it may or may not mean to us. So in the beginning, when Jesus was walking around with his peoples, he met a whole bunch of people. A whole bunch of people followed him. They were baptized either by John or by him, or there were a couple other people who were baptizing as well. And then he picked these 12 and was like, I want these 12. They have a very specific role. It's very important to have 12. We see that there were 12 tribes of Israel. And so it was important to have 12. And so he picks these 12 and they have a distinct role. They're going out. And now there were other people that were going out too, but he has a distinct role with the 12. So he'll be out teaching, right? And then he brings it down to the 12. And then after he brings it down to the 12, sometimes he brings it down to just 3. Sometimes he brings it down to just 1, where he's have a conversation with Peter. And so we see that he's doing these very specific things. Well, Paul wasn't even there. Paul had no parts of this. So they were called by Jesus, right? We're going to very clearly say that they were called. Jesus was like, you are one of mine. I want you to be with one of mine. And then, or with me. And then, but then he dies and Judas dies. So now we're down to 11. So what are they going to do? Well, according to Peter, who read the Old Testament, he was like, well, we've got to be 12. And so they grabbed 2 people who had been with them from the beginning. And so it kind of narrowed it down to these 2. And then they drew lots to see which one they believed that the Lord thought should be number 12. So here we are, we're back at 12. Now what? Well, God specifically sees Paul on the road to Damascus persecuting his people. He knocks him out and he says, I have a very specific job for you. I want you to be an apostle to the Gentiles. Now, I'm shortening a whole bunch of what he said, but we can go back in the book of Acts and look at those things. He's like, I want you to go to the Gentiles, right? These others are going to go to the Jews. And we see that Paul actually goes to the Jews as well. But he's like, I want you to go to the Gentiles. And again, we're also going to see that Peter goes to the Gentiles. But this is a job that he has for Paul. That Paul, the majority of his work is going to be with the Gentiles, the people that are outside of the nation of Israel. And to be fair, I think it could be the fact that he was persecuting them first, and then he turned on a dime, and then the Jewish people are like, what are you doing? Right? Like, now you're messing everything up. You played both sides. Now what? And so he sent them to go preach to the Gentiles. Okay, so he was an apostle called by the will of God outside of all of that. That doesn't mean that everyone is called to be an apostle by the will of God, right? So I want to just be sure that he's declaring his story according to what happened to him. So he was the 13th apostle in some ways, and he was very clearly called by Jesus Christ by the will of God. Now, he's with Timothy. Timothy is somebody he's training in the Lord. And so he considers himself the father to Timothy, and he's training Timothy. And at a lot of points, we see that Timothy is going to go out and he's going to take letters to people. He's going to train people in the way of the Lord. Paul goes and gets him circumcised in order that he can go be around the Jewish people and be accepted by them. And so these two are together, and they're the ones who are writing this letter. And they're writing the letter to the church of God that's in Corinth. So the believers, the followers, the whatever's in Corinth, with the saints in Achaia. So these are actually two different areas. So I find it funny that we say First Corinthians or Second Corinthians, but it's the first one was just to the Corinthian church, like just to the people in Corinth. But here it's to the people in Corinth and Achaia. Achaia is about 35 to 40 miles away from Corinth, which probably in your mind, and this is why I like going back a little bit, because probably in your mind you think to yourself, 35 miles, no big deal, right? Like I think of the churches that are 35 miles away from me, probably takes me about 45 minutes to get there. I can also call them. I can get in touch with them on social media. No big deal. That's not obviously the way it is here. So either one of two things, the people from Achaia have to come down to receive this letter, or the letter goes to one church first and then it travels to the other church next. But he wants you to know that the message that he's delivering is he's not just delivering it to the church in Corinth. So whatever is going on, that he feels the need to deliver this letter, it's going on at both churches. Now, the last letter that he sent to the church in Corinth, it was like, I hear some funky stuff is going on. You guys have the gospel. You seem to know the Lord, but you are sinning kind of like crazy. Like there's a lot of bad stuff, and that needs to be corrected. Let me tell you all the ways in which this needs to be corrected. Also, I want to answer some of the things that you asked me in your letter to me. That's not what's going on, at least in the very beginning here, right? So in the beginning here, he's like, what he seems to be relaying to them is like, there's a lot of stuff going on with me, and I don't want you guys to get upset about it. I don't want it to bring you down in the Lord, because this is good. So let's get into some of this, because he starts right away with some strange stuff. He says, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort. Now I'm going to keep reading because it gets a little convoluted. The Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort which we ourselves are comforted by God. So he's like, the Father of mercies is really important. So the Father of mercies means he's the Father of not giving you what you deserve. So and this is a hard one. This is a hard pill to swallow in some ways, but I want you guys to kind of stick with me a little bit on this. We are not good people. Overwhelmingly, we're pretty selfish. And overwhelmingly, we want to do what we want to do. And sometimes that works out really well for other people, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works really, really well for us, and sometimes it doesn't. but we still have these desires to do the things that we want to do. And even when it doesn't work out, we kind of think to ourselves, well, I know it didn't work out this time, but it's definitely going to work out next time. Like, for example, I believe that I would be able to pick out a really good spouse for my kids. I think that I'd be pretty good at picking out a spouse for my kids. My kids don't want me to pick out a spouse for them because they want to get what they want, right? Like they don't understand that in their 20, 22, 16-year-old brains, they don't know what's best for them right now. I know what's best for them. I know what a good spouse could do for the rest of their lives, right? And I'm not like, I don't want to say I'm not condoning arranged marriages. In some way, I am if they're out for the best of their children. Not if it's not like a financial gain or whatever. But like, I think that I would do a better job. But they, in their lack of wisdom, think that they would do a better job. So, in their immaturity, in their sinfulness, in their turning away from what they like, I raised them their whole lives, right? And I've done some pretty good things in raising them. And in spite of that, they're going to turn to themselves. We do the exact same thing. In spite of all that I have seen God do, I still want what I want, right? Like, I want to spend money that I don't have. I want to go to places that I shouldn't go. I want to be out later than I should. I teach a 5 a.m. exercise class, and I should know better than to be out at midnight the night before. But there are just some days that I'm like, it's fine, I'll be fine. And then I'm ruined the next day because I did what I wanted selfishly at the moment, right? I was impetuous, I was childish, I was immature, and I did what I wanted at the moment. And I say all that because God has mercy on us. God says to us, I know that you deserve me to smack you around. You didn't listen to me. You didn't follow the things I told you to do. You saw that gift that I gave you and you were not thankful for it. But you know what? I'm not going to punish you for it because I love you. And I know that you deserve this punishment, but I'm not going to give that to you because I love you. It has nothing to do with what you've done for me or how good you were the day before or how good you're going to be or how much you're like, oh, I really, really want to be good. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with His mercy, His desire, because He looks at us as His children and He goes, I love you. And I know that you are unable in some ways to make those better decisions. And so I'm going to show you mercy, my mercy for you. So He's the Father of all mercies. And I'm this is important because we're going to see what happens. So this is why it's important to know that God isn't a God that desires to punish you. Do punishments come? Yep. Does suffering happen? Absolutely. Why is the world harsh? We're going to find out some of those things. But He doesn't do what we deserve. And that's really important to know. So He said, so He's the Father of mercies, God of all comfort. He is the one who, when struggles happen, He is the one whom we go to, and He is the one who gives the comfort. And it might be spiritual comfort. He might just, I'm going to say spiritually hug, which probably sounds really cheesy, but He just might be like, yes, you remember me. I'm still here. I still love you. I'm still your father. I still know that you know my voice, right? Like those ways to be comforted. Or He releases whatever it is that you're struggling with in order to give you physical comfort. And it could be either one of those things. But He is the God of all that. So He's the one in charge of all the comfort. He comforts us in our tribulation. So when bad things are happening, when we get into a car accident, when we lose a job, when our kids go wayward, the list goes on and on and on and on. Any of those things, He is there to comfort us in those things. So He gives us the comfort. He comforts us that we may be able to comfort those who are in trouble. So He shows us the way, so then we can go and show someone else the way, right? Like, so He fills up our cup with this overabundance of comfort So then we can go and comfort other people, knowing that these things happen to all people, right? With the comfort we which ourselves are comforted by God, because as the sufferings of Christ abound in us, so our consolation also abounds through Christ. So what he's saying is we're going to suffer just like Jesus did. Like, we're going to suffer a lot. Bad things are going to happen. There's going to be a lot, and it's for them specifically. And Paul is bringing this up because Paul has been through the ringer. So Paul has been arrested. He has been chased. He has been stoned basically to death and then dragged out of the town as if he were dead. He has been shipwrecked. He has had an abundant list of things that have gone really, really wrong and ways in which he suffered. So he knows what suffering looks like. And he's like, guys, I don't want you to worry about me, because the good news is through all that I have been through, I have learned how to love and comfort other people. So I have experienced it for me to then go out and comfort someone else who is maybe unable to be comforted. Maybe they don't know the Lord as well as Paul knows the Lord, right? Maybe they weren't hit with Jesus and blinded the way that Paul was to make it so obvious that he goes out there. And he's like, so this is why we've been comforted. He said, now, if we're afflicted, so like if Paul is afflicted, it's for your consolation and salvation. So every affliction that I'm going through, it's for you guys. And I think this goes two ways. One, it's because, like, okay, Paul, and again, I say two ways. It probably could be multiple ways. Paul is like a big deal. He's planted a whole lot of churches, right? And you would think, like, you look to your pastor and you think, they should deserve the best of the best, right? Like, look at all that they're doing. Look at how many people have come to this church because of the way that my pastor preaches or teaches or prays or loves or whatever it is that my pastor does really well. He should be getting all of the honor and all of the glory. And yet you look at him and you're like, wait a minute, that's not what's happening over there. Like, it looks like the church isn't growing. It looks like he's having financial struggles. It looks like one of his kids has gone astray. One of his kids got into something they shouldn't. And you wonder to yourself, like, why would they be going through all of that? And it's not it. So that's the way we look at Paul, is we go, he's going through all that. Why does he not really love the Lord? And Paul's like, no, that it's not always about these outward physical blessings. It is for me to come and console you guys in these things. Right now, I have lived through it, and I can now console you in those things. He said, and our hope for you is steadfast, because we know that as you are partakers of the sufferings, so also will you partake of the consolation. So don't be scared. This is point number 2, the second thing. Don't be scared, because you're going to go through some of these things also. And you've seen that I've gone through them, right? So now when you live them, it doesn't mean that there's no God. It doesn't mean that God doesn't love you. It means that we use these in order for other people, to give consolation to those people and for salvation for those people. This is a testimony, right? This is the way. How many people do you know that have these massive testimonies? I was drugged down into the pit, and nothing could save me and nothing could help me. And then I see this light, and I know that the Lord is with me, and he saved me from this darkness. We love hearing those stories because we know God works, right? Like, it's so obvious in those stories, we know God is working. It's for you, right? Like, some of these people, some of us suffering certain tribulations are for other people. How many sick people do you know? They've gotten cancer or some other disease, and they're praising God. And I'm hoping that that is a consolation to you, that you go, you can still praise God in this. And I know then if and when I'm ever in this, I can also continue to praise the Lord. If the Lord can be that good, even through all of that bad stuff they're going through, he's got to be a pretty good God, or that person is completely insane. And I know that person, so I don't think that they're completely insane. He says, he moves on into verse 8. He's like, I don't want you to be ignorant, brethren, of our trouble which came to us. So he's proclaiming to them that they have had a lot of things happen. And he said, yes, we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God who raises the dead. So They were in the worst case scenario. And he said, we can't trust in us. All we can do at this point is give it over to the Lord. And people seem to work in this way. People seem like in the greatest of tragedies, that's when a lot of people seem to turn to the Lord, right? You're going to see people go, whether they were assaulted or whether they went through an illness, right? Like those seem to be the moments. I remember way back when I was significantly younger and it was 9/11, and that great tragedy happened and people turned to God. People turned to church. For me, I was an atheist at the time. And even I was like, maybe I should go to church. Maybe I should be around people. And that was sort of like my first step into recognizing there was something beyond just my very tight knit social circle, right? Like, oh, maybe there's something bigger going on here that I need to focus on and to worry about. And he follows and he said, we trust that he's going to deliver us. And he says, you also helping together in prayer for us, that thanks may be given by many persons on our behalf for the gift granted to us. So their prayers, when Paul reached out and asked them to pray and heard they were praying for him, their prayers matter. Their prayers do a work in the Lord. And I don't know what that work is. So he doesn't very specifically say, well, the Lord let me out quicker because you guys were all praying for me. But what he does say is that gift was given to him because of their prayers. So if nobody was praying for him, right? If no prayers were lifted up, and we should see in the Old Testament, the prayer works. It's really important. Moses was praying, speaking directly to God, and things were happening. Changes were happening because Moses was praying to the Lord and asking for things. And this is very true with us as well. Your prayer is not pointless and useless. It's not like, well, he already decided everything, so I don't even know why I'm bothering talking to the Lord. That's not what he's saying here. He's saying that a gift was given to them. So he says, I'm thankful that you were praying for me because I got this gift. So a gift was given to him because of their prayers for him in this time of tribulation. And so you got to remember that, like, keep being in prayer all the time, not just for healing of the sick, you guys, for everything, right? Like we should constantly be in prayer and talking to the Lord. Okay, so he was boasting about his testimony, right? And like this next little section, I want to say is a little bit confusing because he said, in this confidence, like all that I was boasting and everything, all of that I was preaching and doing all this, I had intended to come to you, right? So like I had the intention to come back to you. It looks like he wasn't able to do that, right? It looks like he went elsewhere and tribulations happened. So he had this whole plan about all the places where he was going. And then he was like, yes, I'm going to come to you. And then he was unable to come to them. And he's like, so he says, moreover, verse 23, moreover, I call God as witness against my soul that to spare you, I came no more to Corinth. So because of what was happening to him, he was like, you know what? I'm not going to come to Corinth. We're going to see why. Not that we have dominion over you or your faith, but are fellow workers for your joy. I do not want you to be sad. So whatever's going on, I don't want you to be like sad. We want you to be joyful in the Lord, even in your tribulations, even in all of the things you're going through. We want you to be joyful in the Lord. That's how I'm ending today. I'm hoping it made a little bit of sense. But overall, we're going to continue in this letter and we're going to see what else Paul has to talk about to the churches in Corinth and Achaia. So stick with me and I will see you guys next time. In the meantime, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.